Hi, everybody. As you all know, I like to start my live chats with this photo of Abby and Libby, just reminding us that this case is about them, not the online drama and all that other stuff. So hopefully within a few days, we'll see what happens when the jury decides. So before we start, chat overview, slow mode is on, 20 seconds between messages just to cut down on spam messages. All types of opinions are welcome. Just be polite or moderators will ban anyone being rude or commenting negatively about people instead of chatting about the case facts. I've had a few complaints over the past few weeks about my moderators. And if you're wondering how do you become a moderator, in the past 2 years since I started doing live chats, before I started the chat, I would say, does anybody want to be a moderator? Just write MOD and I'll make you a moderator. So anybody who's a moderator, please only ban or time out. Time made an error. Time out someone or time someone out if they are being rude, not just because they have a different opinion. Click the name of an annoying person in chat to block them. I never see hundreds of comments in the chat, so use the chat to talk politely to other people about the case. In the top of the chat box, it defaults to show top chat, but you can change that to live chat to see all the comments. I try not to curse, but I can't promise anything. The last 2 times I've said a curse word. I don't highlight comments with curses in them. So if you want me to put your comment on the screen, try not to use the S or F word. November 6th, Wednesday, today, at 9:07 a.m., just after the jury entered the room, Rosie said, quote, "Your Honor, the defense rests," end quote. Just a reminder, I'm taking this information from 3 news sources in Indiana, WTHR, Fox 59, and Wish TV, doing my best to summarize and consolidate the reporting from all 3 news sources. The prosecution had 3 rebuttal witnesses in the afternoon. The defense took a total of 6 days to call over 20 witnesses, nearly half as many as the prosecution. McClelland requested a sidebar right after the defense said, surprisingly, Your Honor, the defense rests. Judge Gull said several witnesses were not available yet, so she dismissed the jury for a break. Judge Gull also wanted to set jury instructions with the attorneys, the prosecution and defense, including relating to Rick Allen not testifying on his own behalf and prior inconsistent statements. Rosie asked for time until the afternoon to, quote, finalize instructions relating to jurors judging credibility of Allen's incriminating statements, end quote, whether they were voluntary or involuntary. Judge Gull planned to give the jurors instructions before closing statements and will limit the argument lengths to 2.5 hours. She said, quote, 2 hours is a long time for folks to be sitting in these really uncomfortable chairs, end quote. Yeah, I sat in those uncomfortable chairs and her chair looked a lot more comfortable than mine. Anyway, the judge also told the attorneys if they go over the time, she will, quote, she will kindly ask them to stop. Judge Gull is kind. She's not going to yell at them. All right, first state witness that's come back is Bree Wilbur. Just a reminder, Bree was one of 4 girls who went to the trails, took a variety of photos of Freedom Bridge, of the High Bridge, down by the creek, and also bench number 2, which they said soon after that they saw a bridge guy. So her testimony today was fairly short. She introduced a new piece of evidence, a Snapchat photo of Freedom Bridge, which is the one, that big blue bridge that goes over the Hoosier Heartland Highway. So she took a photo of that bridge, and that was admitted into evidence over the objections of the defense. I'm not sure why the defense objected to that. So this timestamp, I guess, revealed that these 4 girls arrived at the bridge at 12:25 p.m., started at the start of the trail, and then walked all the way past all 6 benches to Monon High Bridge, where they took a photo at 12:43. Bree said they did not see any other girls or anyone resembling Bridge Guy. Well, I said, what if she said they didn't see anybody resembling Bridge Guy? What about the guy they saw entering the trail when they left? I guess she was referring to soon after they arrived. I'm kind of disappointed in the prosecution for not clarifying how many minutes exactly are estimated after they took the 126 bench number 2 photo, these two girls. Did they see Bridge Guy entering from the trail? Because we know that supposedly Richard Allen's car is seen at 1:27 p.m. headed towards CPS. But these other girls said we passed bridge guy around 2:15 or 2:20, which I think is just confusing the jury because Betsy Blair was filmed at 1:46 p.m. headed towards the Mears parking lot. And prior to that, just a few minutes earlier on her way, she said she saw these four girls on the overpass leaving Freedom Bridge. So I think the prosecution messed up on not clarifying some of these timelines. Andrew Baldwin for the defense did a cross-examination. He told her she had, quote, pretty good memory for 7.5 years later, end quote. That was shady. She did not recall seeing any other kids on the bridge that day. Well, did he ask her, did you see Richard Allen? He said he was on the bridge. He said he was on a bench. He said he was on the trail. She never saw him. Neither did her three friends or Betsy Blair between noon to 1:15. Stacy Diener asked more questions of Bree. She asked if the day stood out in her mind and if she talked with police soon after. She said yes. And she said the police focused more on what she saw toward the end of her time on the bridge. We also saw the return of Brian Harshman, who's an Indiana State Police master trooper. He's the one who's been listening to all of Rick's phone calls and videos from his cell. He said, Rick has been in a one-man cell at Westville Prison, Wabash, and also Cass County. He's never had a cellmate. Rick has a chair in his cell in Cass County Jail, and it's bigger than the one at Westville, but there was no opportunity for Rick to have more interaction with people in Cass County Jail than he was having at Westville Prison. Harshman said Rick loved communicating with neighbors in Westville. I'm not sure if Rick would describe it that way, and cannot communicate with his neighbors in Cass County. So he's kind of saying that Rick has less human interaction at county jail than he did at Westville Prison. Harshman also revealed, which has been referenced before, Rick made threats to staff at Cass County Jail. Rosie objected, leading to the testimony about threats being stricken, which I don't understand. Like, the jury heard that, and just for Judge Galt to say, ignore that, like, they're not going to forget it. But I understand that they're supposed to forget it while coming to their decision. He does not currently have much recreational time or human contact, although he had some at Westville Prison. Rick has not exhibited the same psychotic behavior he displayed at Westville during his time at Cass County Jail. The defense did not have any questions for Harshman. Final witness of the day, Dr. John Martin. He's a Westville psychiatrist. He has 40 to 45 years providing psychiatric services to inmates. Over a 13-month period, I guess from November 2022 through December 2023, when Rick left Westville for Wabash Prison, Martin met with Rick 18 times starting November 8th, 2022, a few days after Rick arrived at Westville. Quote, he was stable. He had a history of depression, but did not seem depressed, end quote. A few weeks later, November 29th, 2022, again, Martin observed no problems with Rick's mental health. January 24th, 2023, Rick signed a consent form for Prozac, which is a medication. Staff members would initial a log when Rick took his medication. Martin believed he was doing well, so he saw him every few months. Martin would type up notes after meeting with Rick, and the prosecution entered 2 exhibits, records of medications ordered and medication logs signed by staff. Martin has treated patients under a safekeeping order in the general population area of a jail or prison, but not in solitary confinement. He often referred to solitary confinement as a one-man cell because solitary has a punitive connotation. Quote, Mr. Allen had not done anything wrong, and yet he was being treated as though he had, or at least that's what he could have felt, end quote. Continuing with Martin, Martin had many meetings with the warden of Westville, medical staff, prison attorneys, and others in order to do what they could to, quote, make life a little more comfortable for Rick while he was in prison. We did what we could to see that he was safe, end quote. Martin knew Rick had suicide companions and had expressed suicidal interests. A big day was April 13th, 2023. Martin got an urgent phone call and went to see Rick at Westville, and he saw that Rick was lying naked on a cell mattress with feces smeared on his body, and he was told that Rick had been eating his own feces. Martin told prison staff he needed to see Rick immediately to kind of try and diagnose him. And they practically dragged him to a shower cell and gave him a gown. During interviews, Martin found Rick's insight and judgment deficient and impaired at this time. Martin decided Rick was psychotic, and he had to put him on an antipsychotic medication called Haldol, commonly used to treat schizophrenia, but Rick's mental state was such that he could not consent to treatment. In order to give him Haldol injections without consent, Martin asked for an emergency meeting on April 14th with other psychologists at Westville, and all three of them agreed Rick was psychotic, and he proceeded with the first treatment on April 14th, 2023, the next day. First, he gave Rick 5 milligrams of short-acting Haldol. The maximum dose, according to Martin, was 100 milligrams. He administered such a small dose because he wanted to make sure Rick did not have some kind of negative reaction. After that, Rick was injected with a 15 milligram dose of long-acting Haldol once every 4 weeks, with the first dose administered on April 18th, 2023. According to Martin, April 13th, 2023, he believed that was the height of Rick's psychosis. So while I was reading this, I had a little flashback to, since I've read all these legal filings, I believe it's April 20th, 2023, Nick McClelland filed something to get Rick's medical records. And in that, he said on April 14th, it was decided that Rick did not need involuntary medication. But according to Martin today, Rick did need involuntary medication and he got it. As I just said, at that point, McClelland did not have access to the medical records. So maybe he was just going off of somebody maybe telling him that. I'm not sure. Continuing with Dr. John Martin with some other important dates with his meetings about Rick and how his mental health was changing. April 25th, Rick was still psychotic, but there was some improvement. No evidence of smearing feces on his body, and Rick would recognize him, but he did not know the date. Rick knew he was in prison and did ask for, quote, his wife, the warden, chocolate, and Taco Bell, end quote, according to Martin's recollection. No comment. There was also improvement in Alan's coherence, eating and sleeping. May 2nd, Martin observed Rick was coherent and, quote, denied hallucinations, end quote. So I think Rick denied that he was having any hallucinations. The psychiatrist saw no evidence of psychosis after May 2nd. Rick was eating meals and had spoken to his wife. I added this here. The next day, May 3rd, 2023, was the day Rick told his detailed confession to prison psychologist Dr. Walla. May 8th, Rick did not show any psychosis. He was getting reasonable sleep, denied having hallucinations, was eating most of his meals, and was undergoing therapy with, I guess, Dr. Walla. May 18th, Rick seemed reasonable, was getting an adequate amount of sleep and eating meals. Martin decided to give him a slight increase in his Haldol dose and said he showed no signs of psychosis. He continued Haldol after Rick was no longer in psychosis because he did not want it to reoccur. May 23rd and May 30th, no evidence of psychosis. Then on June 20th, 2023, Rick had gone 7 weeks without showing any signs of psychosis, and Martin decided to stop the Haldol injections. Martin said Rick told him that day, quote, I would like to apologize to the families of my victims, end quote. No reference to who his victims were, if it was Abby and Libby or not. We have heard previous confessions where he said he wanted to apologize to the families of Abby and Libby. Rick was not psychotic at that time of the statement and was not under pressure and said it on his own free will, which we'll get to that in a minute because there's a video apparently from the same day that shows Rick in bad shape. So here comes Rosie for the defense with the cross-examination. Rosie started off saying that Dr. Martin was terminated from his job in Florida, as well as involved in lawsuits involving people in solitary confinement. Gull asked Rosie to move on from discussing Martin's background. Rosie asked, does someone with a serious mental illness include someone with major psychosis? Yes, is what Martin answered. Martin also said solitary confinement can cause or exaggerate mental illness. Rick could possibly move in and out of psychosis. In his November 2022 report, he noted Rick had used alcohol socially. Although, according to Rick, on the day of the murders, He bought a six-pack, drank three, drove to the trails, killed killed two girls, and then went home and drank the other three. Not sure if that's true or if Rick was hallucinating. Martin did not watch videos of Rick in his cell and did not have contact with Rick between January and April 2023. On April 13th, 2023, Rick was very psychotic. Rick suffered from major depressive disorder, and if he believed he was unfairly incarcerated, it could make the depression worse. Martin reported being concerned when Rick met with his lawyers. Rick told Dr. Walla he thought one of his lawyers was a good cop and the other was a bad cop. I bet Rosie was the bad cop. Martin said he has treated a pretrial detainee in prison that had no criminal history before. Rosie showed Martin his deposition, and Martin agreed he earlier said he had not treated a pretrial detainee in a prison before. Martin continued saying it would be more confusing for someone in solitary if they had not done something wrong. Rosie's cross-examination continued. After this is what I was referring to a minute ago. Rosie played a video from Westville Prison of Rick on June 20th, 2023, the same day that Martin is saying Rick said, "I want to apologize to the families of my victims." During this video, Rick's in the courtroom. Rick's wife looked away as it played. 13 News reporter Samantha Johnson said the video was visible to 2/3 of the courtroom and showed Rick's chest secured, handcuffed at his waist, and undergoing a medical exam. His face was expressionless, showing no emotion, dazed and staring as his head falls to his left shoulder. At this point in the courtroom, the news reporter added, Rick started tearing up while watching the video in court, and some of his family members were heard crying as well. Rosie said the video was 21 minutes long, but Gull allowed it to be played for just a few minutes. Dr. Martin did not know why Rick's actions on the June 20th, 2023 video seemed different than what he recorded in his notes, but he does not question his own records of that day. He believed Rick returned to baseline by May 2nd, 2023, a month and a half earlier. Rick's statement about apologizing to the families was spontaneous. Martin does not remember if the interaction was recorded. McClelland had a chance to ask some questions, and Martin confirmed he had a conversation with Rick on June 20th, 2023, and said Rick was oriented. Martin claims the interaction was different than the video just shown in the courtroom, but did not have an explanation as to why it was different. A few jury questions. What time did you meet with Rick on June 20th, 2023? I don't remember. It was early in the morning. Rick did not faint that day or was under psychosis that day. Did the oral Haldol continue after the news report? This news report said the question was, did the oral Haldol continue after June 20th, 2023? Another reporter said June 6th, 2023. So I'm not sure exactly what the correct question was. Dr. Martin replied, yes. Although previously he just said after June 20th, he stopped the Haldol. So I'm uncertain about that question and answer. Jury question number 3. Based on the video, could this presentation be consistent with faking? No, according to Martin. Rick was not faking that day, on the video at least. Is it possible for Alan to slip in and out of psychosis in a 24-hour period? Yes. After that, Judge Gull told the jurors, you've heard all the testimony in this case. Then Gull instructed the jury they must not consider Rick not testifying as a factor in their decision. Baldwin revisited jury instructions, wanting to add a statement about confessions. The state objected, so the defense withdrew the request. Baldwin then brought up an offer of proof involving Elvis Fields, who is connected to the defense's Odinism defense. He's the guy who apparently was questioned by police and said something like, if my spit was found on one of the girls, but I can explain it away, would I still be in trouble? He told his sisters that he got a blue jacket he's trying to give away. He was on the bridge. Abby was being annoying or something like that. Also, the police said he has the mental capacity of a 7 or 8-year-old. So Baldwin said, quote, I want Mr. Fields to be on the stand, answer some questions and see what he says. End quote. Who knows what he might say? The state says this does not matter because the defense has rested. Baldwin wants Fields, Elvis Fields, addressed because he did not respond to a subpoena from the defense. Judge Gull said she has already ruled and he would not testify. Final slide. So after each day of the hearing, the media, but not the public, are allowed 15 minutes to look at any exhibit. So I guess somebody today wrote down what this doctor wrote on June 20th, 2023. So the following is a direct transcription of an exhibit shown to the media after court adjourned. It is a psych evaluation of Richard Allen prepared by Dr. John Martin on June 20th, 2023. Quote, this morning, the patient was interviewed in an interview cell. He had been wearing a uniform when he was taken to the cell, but chose to take it off and was in a t-shirt and boxers. Several contusions on his face that had been self-induced are no longer as prominent. Eye contact was poor. He spoke very softly, but also very briefly. He kept asking for Dr. Walla. He was coherent and spoke without loose associations or flight of ideas. He was oriented to person, place, time of day, and situation. He has a constricted editorial note by the reporter, difficult to read this word in this guy's report. So he has a constricted effect, not sure what that means. He said that he had suicidal ideations. He did not want to talk too much. What he did talk about was his concern for his wife. He said that he wanted to apologize to the families of his victims. He is eating his meals. He is keeping himself clean. A review of the logs shows that he is getting an adequate amount of sleep and is eating most of his meals. He has been meeting with Dr. Walla for therapy sessions and is due to see her in a few minutes. He was not consistent in taking his oral medications, and so it was discontinued. He will continue on Prozac. I am discontinuing the Haldol today. In general, he is much improved and does not appear to be psychotic at the present time. He claims to be suicidal. He is continued on suicide watch. He will be interviewed again in 2 weeks. End of transcription of his report. So tomorrow starts closing arguments in the case. And now I'll get to your comments. Hi, everybody. Just looking for some comments. Hi, John. The defense rested because they literally had no witnesses that could remotely prove Richard Allen was not the killer. I mean, I was very interested to see they did nothing to provide an alibi for Rick where he was at 213. I mean, the only thing they vaguely referenced was that Betsy Blair passed past CPS at around 2:15 and saw a car that did not match Richard Allen's car. But she also said she drove past at 1:15 going to use the restroom at the library, and she made no mention of seeing Richard Allen's car, which should have been there if he was there until 1:30. So I was not impressed overall with the defense's presentation. But obviously, they had certain people who they had impressive credentials, like the guy yesterday from Harvard and the lady yesterday who talked about the headphones, which I'm still confused about how that works with saying that somebody was putting the phone rings and milliseconds later, a headphone jack is plugged in for 5 hours. I don't get that. Sienna likes when Tom gets spicy. Did I get spicy before? High Fire and Fury. I really thought the defense would drag their defense out as long as they could. Pretty surprising. Well, they weren't allowed to call a lot of people they wanted to. All these Odinus, quote unquote Odinus, Kagan Klein, Brian Chadwell. I think for those witnesses, they just wanted the jury to say, look over here, don't look at Richard Allen. These guys might also be involved. But I agree with Judge Gull that the defense never proved that those guys were there. Paperclip antenna. Since when does Judge Gull care about people's comfort? She just wants them to finish in 2 hours or less. Hi, Curious Contrarian. Keep your eyes on the road. John wants to know, how do you reply to someone directly in here? You write the @ symbol, start writing the first few letters of their name, their screen name, and you should be able to choose their screen name. And once you click send, when they're looking at the chat, their screen name will be highlighted in orange. So they know that you comment or reply directly to what they said. Sienna says, where I am from, we all call creek crick. And it's weird when I hear someone say creek. You say dear crick. Hi, Cryptex. Hi, on Unibot, sorry. So it seems the whole defensive strategy was proving prison conditions are hard mentally. No alibi, no innocence, character witnesses, nothing. So weird. Well, I guess maybe his half sister and daughter were character witnesses saying they love him and he did not molest them. Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I was surprised when the prosecution rested what I thought was early, and the defense too. I mean, I just keep going back to Rick's noon to 1:30 timeline does not add up. People can debate as much as they want about whether his confessions were true or not, but I mean, his timeline does not add up. A few days after the murders, he told police, I was there 1 to 3 o'clock. February 18th, he said, I was there 1:30 to 3:30. So both times he's saying, I was there at 2:13 when these girls were kidnapped. Yet he didn't see anybody except 3 girls. Is there an emoji? There needs to be an emoji where I go, oh, I can't do it right now. One of my stupid faces. Moving along. Although Dee Dee says you don't really need the @ symbol, right? Thank you. No, hi, no. Anyone know how far from the crime scene was Richard's car? How long the way back to CPS building would be? I looked at quite a few videos about the crime or the trails from CPS to like the circle at Freedom Bridge where the trail starts. It takes about 3 minutes. From the start of the trail to the start of the high bridge, it takes about 15 minutes. So that's 18 minutes from where Rick parked to the start of the high bridge. I've seen different videos going across the start of the high bridge all the way to the end. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes, depending how fast people are going. Unibot, I think the defense were putting all their eggs in the a cult of Odin worshippers did it basket. They sure did spend a lot of time on that and wasn't even allowed to come into the trial. But it's important to remember that the defense wasn't making that up. They got that from these 3 officers, Click, Murphy, and Ferenczi, who investigated these guys and thought they could be involved. It was revealed, I guess, this past summer that Click thought, Officer Click from Rushville, thought that Abby and Libby passed a group of Odinists on the trails, laughed or made fun of them, and then they were killed because they were laughing at the Odinists when nobody saw anybody other than one person, Bridge Guy, not a group of Odinists. I was really shocked at that theory, but I'm sure Click would be shocked at some of my theories. Hi, JJ. This whole defense theory of girls being driven from the park, then redeposited in the park the next day is beyond ludicrous. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And the whole 5-hour headphone thing, like somebody sticks a headphone jack in Libby's phone 3 hours after it stops moving. Then 5 hours later, they take it out. So either they plug in a headphone jack, leave, come back 5 hours later, and then take out the headphone jack and put the phone under Abby's body. It just does not make any sense to me. Quite a few people have done some research in the past day, and apparently, like water or dirt could cause that false, I don't want to say error, but the false thing in the data for the phone to say it was actually a headphone, but it's not really a headphone. Hi, Candace. What was the date of the first confessions? I believe it was April 3rd. However, there was some kind of discrepancy because Rick wrote on a piece of paper to the warden something along the lines of, "I want to confess." The warden seemed to have dated that March 5th, but it may have been April 5th. So that's kind of like a weird error. Like there's so many errors in this case. Most of them seem to be April, but the phone calls I heard continued through, I think, June. And also, I think the last confession was February 4th, 2024 at Wabash Prison. I believe a guard was doing like a 15-minute walk around. He overheard Rick saying, essentially, I forget, I don't want to misquote it, but it was something incriminating, pretty much saying that Rick was involved in the killings and that he did it. Hi, Sienna. Why is Rick able to behave himself in court and not dance around naked? I really want to know, like, how he went from being psychotic to, like I said, from the first day of the trial, he looked totally normal to me, acted totally normal. I was just looking before, it may have been from the summer hearings. Rick has gotten a mugshot every time he's like been transferred. I don't know if you guys remember, but at one mugshot, he looks kind of heavy and he has a full beard. He seems to have lost weight and he lost that beard to maybe appear more normal for his trial. Fire and fury, a person faking insanity, I really believe would not go that far, in my opinion, insane and guilty. Are you saying like eating his own feces? Yeah, that seems quite a distant thing to do. Like, if you're faking it, are you really doing that? But like, is he even capable of being at his own? Is he competent to stand trial? It just seems weird that like he was totally crazy a year and a half ago, and now he's totally fine. Hi, who dat? Rick was never crazy, but he's definitely evil. Something was wrong. Whether he was faking it, I mean, these psychiatrists, these people are professionals. They're saying that they examined him over time, and I think four of them, they said on April 13th or 14th, 2023, they all said he was showing psychosis. How that influences him to be saying, "I killed Abby and Libby," and to start lying repeatedly, I don't know what that's about. I'd have to see some more evidence. I know that yesterday the Harvard doctor talked about false confessions and said Rick seemed to be giving some false confessions, but he never was asked exactly what quotes from Rick's phone calls to his wife and mom showed psychosis or any kind of like delusional thinking. Hi, Jason. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that out loud, so I'll just keep it on the screen. Hi, Miss Dog Lover. Thank you again for your generous donation. I hope your hair looks nice. In my opinion, he changes his behavior to suit the situation. Well, that's what like 7 guards said. They thought he was faking it, trying to get advantages for himself. Who dat? Everyone who thinks Rick is being treated unfairly should watch Lawyer Lee's interview of some guy named Jumpsuit Pablo, which I think was yesterday or last night. I only had time to like watch the first minute of that. I'll have to watch it. I guess he's a former prisoner. Hi, Dides. A former inmate said if you're innocent and in solitary, why would you confess knowing you'd be spending the rest of your life in solitary? I said that also. I'm not a former inmate. I said, like, if it's so horrible and you're innocent, why are you telling so many people that you're guilty? Also, if you're innocent, this is not going to go well. If you're innocent, why are you saying you're suicidal if you know that like you're innocent and you're going to be found innocent? and you can get like millions of dollars and he never has to go back to work again. I understand that I don't have education in mental health. I just suffer from mental health issues. Not making fun of mental health, but I don't know. Strike that from the record. John says to Fire and Fury, sure he would. He knows what could happen to him if he ends up in general population in the state penitentiary. He sees it as a path to freedom or a mental hospital. Yeah, apparently he did know that there was a mental hospital in Logansport. And I think somebody, one of the guards or Dr. Walla may have talked to him about it. And there was questions whether he thought if maybe he acted really crazy, he could go to the mental hospital and maybe it's closer to his wife and he could see his wife more often. That was just one theory. Hi, Sparky. Thank you for being a member for so long. Yes, justice for Abby and Libby, hopefully coming soon. Candace said, oh, I heard he said Abby and Libby, not my victims. Interesting. Previously, he did say, I want to apologize to the families of Abby and Libby. I think those were in the phone calls to his wife and mom, or maybe somewhere else, not just to this psychiatrist. To this psychiatrist on June 20th, 2023, he did say, I want to apologize to the families of my victims. Hi, XRT. I remember your first video where you analyzed this case. It was very good. I never would have expected I'd be at this place right now hosting live chats, but all I ever cared about was hopefully somebody watching that video and identifying Bridge Guy and having him be held accountable. It has 160,000 views and nobody identified Richard Allen after watching it. But hopefully Richard Allen identified himself as Bridge Guy and he'll be held accountable soon. No, you find it odd that Richard had to look away today because he couldn't look at himself strapped to a chair. The defense attorney had to console him, but he had no problem looking at crime scene photos. Yeah, he was looking at the TV during some other testimony and photos that were on the screen when I was there. Miss Dog Lover, I think that Rick's wife just can't accept it. We don't know. I try to have compassion for her and her mother, or sorry, Rick's mother. It seems like natural that you would not expect your spouse or child to be killing children. So I understand that it's hard for them to accept. Hi, Blinker Fluid. I find it very disturbing that Rick did not cry or show any emotion while looking at slain children on the screen. Many reports he sat through all the photos and did not look away. I try not to look. I did not look at the crime scene photos of Abby and Libby dead or the autopsy photos, but he definitely was looking at other things on the screen that I was like, oh wow, he's actually looking at that. He watched the Bridge Guy video on the big screen TV every time that it was played, which was really weird. Like if that's him and he's just sitting there and the jury's watching it. But I've said previously, I don't know that it's good for the prosecution. They had a large photo of the Bridge Guy screenshot. It was maybe 3 feet high by 2 feet wide. It was large. It was on an easel, and it was in front of the jury box on the right, maybe 10 to 15 feet. And over here on the left, 20 feet away, is Richard Allen. I don't think his face matched up. So the jury's looking at that guy and then looking at Richard Allen almost 8 years later. Maybe some of them will say in their minds, that is not the same person. I cannot vote him guilty. So we'll see what happens. I think the prosecution should remind the jury that it's an iPhone 6 with low resolution, zoomed in. I think the bridge guy body and shoes match Richard Allen's body type, but I just don't see his face jump out. But I'm not saying that it's not him. Hi, Malibu. Do you remember hearing that Rick checked into rehab after the murders? It was a mental facility, and it's never been revealed during the trial exactly which month in 2019. Hi, She Elf. Was it psychosis or delirium? I think I've heard both in court. I thought those were pretty different things. Uh, yeah, I think yesterday the Harvard doctor may have said he had delirium, and then today they're saying psychosis. Miss Dog Lover, Rick put himself at the crime scene. Technically, yeah, the crime scene is the bridge. He wore the same clothes as Bridge Guy, correct. The last person to see the girls and was captured on video. His bullet was found at the scene. He confessed 61 times. Shall I go on? I mean, that's pretty convincing. And he also, I don't know. We'll see. The jury, I don't know how the jury is compiling all this like stuff for Rick and against Rick's guilt. So I guess it's going to be interesting to find out if the jury comes back fairly quick. Does that mean that they think he's guilty? Or if it just drags on and they come back after a few days, are they going to say all 12 of us cannot come to a unanimous decision? And what's Judge Gall going to say? Like, go back, keep working? Malibu to Miss Dog Lover. I'm good with that list, I guess. Plus, Tom said he believed the voice to be a match. Yes, Rick's October 13th, 2022 interrogation was the best quality of Rick's voice that I had heard. And I was like, does his voice match Bridge Guy's? And I do believe it does. Hi, Lady Monet. There was a domestic dispute at his house once. It was revealed that Rick put a gun in his mouth, a handgun in his mouth. And at some point, I guess he said it was a cry for help. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't know. He's had some mental health issues for most of his life. Hi, Katie. Thank you. I won't guess who the other two are. Lawyer Lee and Andrea Burkhardt, or Hidden True Crime. She Elf. It's very weird that they never gave a good alibi. Well, people are saying that I guess the defense at some point said there's some phone data that they're going to present during the trial that shows that Rick was not there. That never happened. Malibu. Sounds like the prosecution and the defense did not make strong cases. I agree on that, but the prosecution was better and enough for me to say Rick is guilty. We're at 43 minutes. I'm going to stop being a freak about stopping at an hour and 59 minutes, but today there's not a lot to talk about, so maybe an hour and a half. Yeah, blinker fluid, what I just said. They said something about presenting phone data that would clear Rick's name, but we didn't see that either. Just the goofy headphones thing. Yeah, so if Rick is innocent, wouldn't you say, if you're innocent and you're Rick, wouldn't you tell your defense, like, I sold my phone on eBay from 2017. Please have my wife go into my eBay account, find out who bought the phone, see if they still have it, and they can extract data showing that I'm innocent. Did that happen? Doesn't seem like it. Hi, Scott Stir. What do you think the prosecution needs to do during closing statements? They really need to clarify this timeline about if the jury looks at these photos of the 127 Hoosier Harvester video, and they have two photos of Rick's car parked at CPS. If there's like no noticeable differences between those two cars, that's great for the prosecution. However, They need to like do a timeline showing, okay, 127, then Rick parks at CPS around 128, 129, and walks towards 3 minutes to the start of the high bridge or the start of the trail. And that's when he passes the girls. But they failed, like I just said, the prosecution failed to have these girls on the stand say how many minutes after the 1:26 p.m. bench number 2 photo they passed Bridge Guy. Bree was asked during her first testimony, and she just said, "We were still in the woods when we passed him," but Stacy Diener failed to say exactly, or not exactly, but a close amount of how many minutes after. Was it 5 or 20? Or according to Rayleigh, it was like 2:15, like 45 minutes later, which does not add up. So the prosecution really needs to do a timeline that is more easy for the jury to follow. Um, I would say that they should play Guys Down the Hill and all of Rick's confessions, just like the ones where he says, "I did it, I did it, I did it, I killed Abby and Libby, I killed Abby and Libby." Just repeat it, repeat it. That's like the end of it. Leave that in the jury's mind. At some point, I'll do my list, my for and against Rick's guilt, and I'll do one final video on the case where I kind of do an overview of the entire case and the trial. I guess you guys are talking about Rick has dependent personality disorder. Lady Monet, that disorder explains a lot. While with Kathy, he remained somewhat functional with her caring for him. At prison, he could not function well without his wife. Yeah, and at what point does he like he's telling his wife and mom, "I did it, I did it." They just keep saying, "No, no, you didn't. Stop." He loves them both so much, he doesn't want to upset them. So it seems like he stopped confessing because it was upsetting his wife and mom, and they were not accepting of his confession. I know that it's come out that he's suffering from psychosis, but I just got to be honest. Like the phone calls I heard, I think there were 7 to his wife and mom. I don't know what psychosis is, but he sounded totally normal. He was talking about other things, not just like calling them saying, I think one call he said, he at the very beginning, he said, "I did it," to maybe his wife. But he was like talking about other stuff before and after, sounding totally normal. So I just question, are these fake confessions or false confessions? Plus, like over 10 months, not just to his wife and mom, but telling companions, guards, the warden, Dr. Walla. Now we find out he said something to Dr. Martin. It's suspicious to me. Added with the timeline that does not add up, that's why I say he's guilty. Fire and Fury. Did the prosecution ever bring up the defense negligence that led to the crime scene photos being leaked? No. Loxy, a ninja probably did the headphones without moving the phone. Yeah, I just don't really believe this headphone thing is showing that somebody else killed Abby and Libby and not Rick. The sticky wicket, some other dude is always a weak defense. I think somebody said like 98% of, is it cases or murder cases, end with a guilty verdict. I was shocked to hear that. Blinker fluid. It would be nice if the prosecution could present a timeline graphic in closing or a video. Noel says people are so divided. Yes, a lot of people think he's innocent. I'm nervous, but if he's not convicted, it's the state's fault. Plus the defense, I bet, spent 200 plus thousand defending him. I think it's more like 600,000 or more at this point. Hi, Susan. Is it unusual for the defense to rest so abruptly? Seems suspicious to me. I felt like the prosecution rested abruptly. Uh, I don't know what the cause of it was. Why did they not call Nicole Robertson from the FBI? She's the one who wrote Ron Logan's search warrant. I would like to see the full list of the defense witnesses that they had planned to call and see who they left off. Scott says, without a timeline or map, the jurors won't know what to think of any of this. Yes, it would be very good for them to have something to bring into the deliberation room to like guide how all like they've gotten a lot of information over the past few weeks. Some kind, like you say, some kind of map and a timeline would be helpful for them to make the correct decision. Lady Monet, his treatment while incarcerated should have no bearing on his guilt or innocence. That's correct. Like it has no bearing on where his butt was at 2:13 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. I hope the jury keeps the issue separate. I hope so too. Hi MVP 1040. Why didn't the defense get his coworkers to testify in his favor? Well, yeah, I mean, it would be good to have them testify saying, when you saw the bridge guy video and audio, did you question whether it was your coworker Rick? If a bunch of people got on the stand and said, no, the voice does not match, I never saw him in that blue jacket, although he did have a dark blue jacket, so I'm not sure that they would say that, but I don't know. Hi, Cindy J. Why did no one see flannel shirt guy? They did see flannel shirt guy. Um, Two witnesses said they saw flannel shirt guy, or three did. Libby's father, Cheyenne, and Shelby. They said he was taking photos and he had a camera around his neck. High caricature contest. That's what is driving me nuts, Lady Monet. What does his treatment have to do with his guilt or innocence? Yeah, it seems like the defense is focused so much on his prison stay, not proving any. Not obviously, the defense does not have to prove Rick is innocent, but at the same time, the prosecution presented all this stuff showing that he is probably guilty, and the defense, in my opinion, did not really combat that at all. Miss Dog Lover, thank you so much again. Please save your money for your next hair salon visit. Ah, sorry. No, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Especially since you're staying up late. If Rick is found innocent, do you know if law enforcement will keep an eye on him or if he's just totally free? I doubt law enforcement's going to keep an eye on him. And I doubt that the jury's going to, 12 people are going to say not guilty. From what I saw in the courtroom, I cannot imagine 12 people saying not guilty. There's just too much there. Malibu, this case has had such a high cost to the families and financially for the Carroll County. We've been denied access to the testimony and exhibits, so I can't really say for sure, but it's rather obvious that he's guilty. Yeah, I really hope that these exhibits are made public. I think it's after if he's found guilty and then he's sentenced, at that point, there should be maybe some people asking for these exhibits to be made public. Hopefully you all can hear the phone calls to his wife and mom and see the October 13th and 26th interrogations. And I want to see the 127 video and photos to see if it just matches car. Blinker fluid. Yes, I saw quite a few jurors taking notes. So I hope they can share some of the timeline in deliberation. Hi, Sparky. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your fire emojis. Noel says, I agree, Malibu. I think the defense did fundraising to pay for experts Each one probably 25,000 each. The one I mentioned last night, the headphone lady, I shouldn't refer to her as headphone lady. The former FBI agent, who I believe has her own business, she got $300 an hour for 80 hours, so $24,000. The defense, I guess, raised $40,000, but who knows what happened to that. Susan says, Lauren from Hidden True Crime was talking about you today on her live. She likes you as much as we do. That's because I gave her $20. Yeah, she's very nice. And her friends are also. Yes, I'm returning to Delphi to answer any questions the jury has in the deliberation room. And I'm going to be made the honorary foreman. I'll bring my spreadsheets, my 4,000 Delphi files on my computer, whatever they want. Jason, do you accept ISP officer Chris Cecil's findings that the headphone plug in-out data was likely caused by being exposed to water or dirt, which the girls were clearly exposed to both? I don't know anything about anything, but taking the two options, some random person staying there for 5 hours or coming back, plugging a headphone in milliseconds before a phone call comes in, or the water from the creek. I'm going with the water from the creek. I'm wondering if the milliseconds was like the phone starting to vibrate before it technically rang. I know that sounds stupid. I'd like to hear, as I said yesterday, I want to hear from somebody who's like not affiliated with the defense or the prosecution. I agree, Scott. I'm going to try and do it at some point, but I have 239 pages of notes that I took, so it's going to take a hot minute. I would love to see a timeline of confessions and psychosis symptoms. I'll work on it. Lady Monet, one of the indie stations, has a blog of each day's testimonies. You can read to hear timeline. Yeah, so it's one of the stations that I was looking at. It's either Wish TV, WTHR, or Fox 59. Yeah, as of a few months ago, the defense had spent, I think, $586,000 or something. That's a lot of money. Blinker fluid. We already heard from the woman testing DNA that everything was so covered in dirt and water that it was hard to test for DNA. The phone was wet. Duh. Okay. Scott says, I think Rick lost weight to look less like Bridge Guy. His photos over the years from his wife's Facebook, he looks so different in so many different photos. He looks nothing like he did previously in 2017, or like when he was, I don't want to say overweight, but we'll say overweight, and with that like long goatee thing. I'm not sure how much his defense said. Okay, Rick, your trial's coming up. Lose weight, shave your beard, cut your hair, get it together. Jazzer girl, I was watching another channel and saw this guy, hot guy Marcus, and I looked in the background of his video, and it's the same place you stayed in Delphi. I watched your videos for hours. Guy stayed at like 5 different places. I was going to show, I'm not going to show it. No, I took a photo at one of the Airbnbs that had like a barn and a cornfield at sunset, but the sunset was like right here, and it was too distracting for my viewers. Hi, illegally blonde. I have no doubt the reality sunk in and he confessed. I think he had a mental break, but he's not crazy. I don't know. I think he did it and he realized like how horrible prison is and that that's his circumstances for the rest of his life. And that's sad to anybody to realize that they're going to be in prison the rest of their lives, hating every day. So why is that not something that maybe caused him to lose his marbles, as my grandfather used to say? Hi, Moonchild. I really hope the prosecution shows the timeline on screen. They need to see how it's not possible for another person to do the murders. I'm not sure how these closing arguments go, but I do hope that there is some kind of multimedia presentation that the jury can bring into the deliberations to see how this all played out according to the prosecution's final theory and timeline. Caricature contest is a nurse, I believe. Eating feces is actually common when you have nothing else in your cell but your body. Well, Rick apparently was refusing some meals. Sassfire, I guess that's thinking the same as me. After spending that long in prison, the thought of the rest of your life in that place, I can see someone going to that extreme in hopes of getting freed. I don't know. What did he think? Like he was going to go to a mental hospital and it's going to be less stressful than a prison? First time I've seen this screen name. Gabrielle do Lion Court. I don't know. People get upset that I say I don't know so much and sorry. I'm sorry. Guilt can drive a man mad. Yes, it can. Gull's gavel, mental health issues are tough. If you've never lived with someone with mental health issues, then you have no idea how awful it can be. Meds do help. Yeah, I'm not denying the psychiatrist and psychologist, but I just don't see like how like all of his confessions over 10 months are all because he was put into a cell by himself or given Haldol because he had psychosis. Why do we need to come up with excuses why this man is telling so many people he's a child killer? Hi, Victoria. He's 100% guilty, but even if he's acquitted, he will probably end up institutionalized. Who knows what the future holds? Moonchild, I wish the doctor would have said that guilt of killing two girls is possibly what caused Richard Allen to have a mental breakdown. I wish someone would have said that. It never really came up. I think it should have since he said it so many times. Like he did kill two girls. So mm. B for T parodies. If this is a death penalty case, what would Rick have as his last meal? Apparently, Taco Bell and chocolate. AD, he's a psychopath, and his motive for confessing is not what you think. Was in solitary and he was understimulated, and so he confessed to get that emotional need filled. I think out of the 7 phone calls that I heard to his wife and mom, I'll have to go back and look, but I think he only cried once from my bad memory. And he was so happy that his mom told him that she had been going to church. I guess before he was arrested, he knew her as somebody who did not go to church. So during one phone call, he said that his wife, like maybe Dr. Frank or somebody, had given a Bible to Rick's wife and then she sent it to Rick. I guess he started reading it and he said he found God on March 21st, 2023. So in this phone call to his mom, they're talking about religion. She's saying she's going to church. From what I recall, he started crying, just seeming to be so happy that his mom also was now into religion, like Rick is now also into religion. As I said, I have 239 pages, so I can't really find that day of phone calls and what he said exactly. But I will do a video at some point consolidating the entire case and my entire notes from the trial. So I don't know about what he's saying on that phone call. It seemed real and legit to me. That's all I can say. Caricature contest. Seems like some money should go to the families instead of these experts that nobody believes. Yeah, it's interesting that lady got $24,000 just to say a headphone jack was plugged in. Actually, like, that's a good job to have. How do you become one of those people? $300 an hour to testify? Blinker fluid. Shouldn't it be called mental unhealth? Maybe. Hi, Brian. You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I say a lot of things that need to be stricken from the record. Lady Monet, if the cell phone under Abby, it was under Abby, ground, cell phone, Libby sneaker, Abby's body. If the cell phone under Abby was retrieved and put back, the blood pool around Abby would have been disturbed. Yeah, it just doesn't add up to me that somebody did headphones and stuff. Abigail, thank you so much for your extreme generosity. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's donated. I really appreciate it. Hi, TJ, and your dog. Hi to everybody's dogs and cats. How do you think the jurors are going to feel when they go home and Google all the other crazy stuff that's happened in this case? That should be a reality show. Like, you're sequestered, and then you get home and you can see like all this other stuff, this crazy stuff that's been talked about, and they might be like, "What? I didn't know that." What if we were allowed to include that in our deliberations? We'll see if any of these jury members ever speak out publicly. I'd be happy to interview them. Jason, this was given to me by somebody in Indiana, a very nice person, and their spouse. And it's my biggest cup. So between this and Taco Bell, I'm so trashy. I use the Taco Bell drive-through cups. I drink a lot of water, so I just prefer not to keep refilling. Thank you for your comment. Lady Monet, families can file for funeral expenses, counseling expense from a state victim fund. They can file a wrongful death, I guess, against Richard Allen. Not sure what they're going to get. His wife sold their house for, I think, $255,000, maybe a little over a year ago. Thank you, John. It's been a while since I've worn a dress shirt. Hi, Carol. Did the physicians all agree that Rick was sane enough to go to trial. Yeah, what was that all about? Did his attorneys ever try and, like, examine him mentally to see if he was competent? They said for so long that he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I'm not laughing at him having mental issues. I'm laughing at myself having mental issues. AD, Rick enjoyed looking at the crime scene photos. I just don't know how he can sit there and have the jury looking at him, like, trying to look at his reaction. I've said previously, the only time that I remember him having a noticeable reaction, from what I remember, it was the day that I think Steve Mullen was on one of his 5 times on the witness stand. It's the Hoosier Harbor Store video, which was not played on the TV, but I think Mullen said it was a 9 seconds that this car was on the video. So they did 9 screenshots, 1 for every second, and the jury has those 9 screenshots. From what I remember, Rick was squirming a lot, swiveling in his chair, and the jury's over here, and at some point, he was like this for, like, 10 seconds. I'm not into people who say they're body language experts, but I really wanna see that car to see if it matches Rick's car or not. Malibu says there is a condition called betrayal blindness that seems appropriate in this case when it's just devastating to accept what is right in front of you. It's the first time I've heard of that one. But as I've said, I just understand, like, a mother thinking their son that they raised is incapable of doing this, which she said on the phone. And I think his wife also said, like, this is not you. You're not capable of doing this. So that doesn't mean that he did not do it, though. Gabrielle Court. What happens to a person who takes Prozac and drinks alcohol? Also, like, what kind of alcohol withdrawal and cigarette smoking withdrawal did he go through in prison? Not saying that's gonna make him falsely confess, but I'd assume there's some kinda consequences, mentally also. Sassfire, will the jury get to see or have the arrest photo of Rick? I feel he looks the most like himself as bridge guy in that photo. I don't recall them being entered as evidence. Hi, Lynn. The phone never moved. Yes, that whole headphone jack thing, I'm not buying. TJ says they take Prozac and drink alcohol. No real consequences. Do you smoke doobie? Oh, every live chat I have to mention doobie and Taco Bell. Blinker fluid. I think most medications for mental health say not to drink alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. Hi, Paris. I think Richard Allen is a lot more competent than he's being given credit for. The trouble is that regular people have such trouble understanding the way a psychopath or any person of that dark triad works. He seemed normal every day in court, except last Saturday, he was looking at the people in the audience a lot, including me. He scowled at me at some point, but I was wearing a suit for the second time, and maybe he was like judging my fashion sense. Anyway, why was he like in his boxers and a t-shirt meeting with a psychiatrist? Speaking of fashion sense. AD has been on a murder jury before. The jury will give a lot of weight to the defendants in courtroom behavior. All right, thank you for sharing. But as I said, he really, as far as I saw, he did not really have any major expressions other than the 127 Hoosier Harvestar camera. And I really think it's good for the defense and Richard Allen, this bridge guide photo enlarged for the jury to look at and then look over to Rick, and I don't think it really matches his face. But it's so blurry that will the jury understand that it's blurry? Hi, something, Nix, Nightshade? Please only use screen names that I could pronounce. I think Rick wanted any kind of drug or buzz since he could not drink in prison. He faked it all, in my opinion. Well, how are you going to fake where you're convincing up to 5 or 6 professionals, mental health professionals, that you're not faking it? The Harvard guy was just reviewing old stuff, but he said that Rick was not faking. Or no, he said Rick was giving false confessions, but not faking. Dr. Polly Westcott, Dr. Walla, at some point she said she thought he was faking. Then later she wondered if he was being truthful. These 3 or 4 psychiatrists on the 14th of April said he was undergoing psychosis. So I understand your point, but I try to look at both sides, and the professionals do have like decent opinions. Hola, Ivy. Yeah, so before, I guess, Ivy, I saw a comment that you wrote. You were wondering if the jury ever got the 1:27 p.m. Hoosier Harvestar video. I said it was not played on the video or on the TV, but from what I recall, the car was seen for 9 seconds during the video. Investigator Mullen said they took a screenshot of every second, so the jury got 9 screenshots from that video to compare to the 2 photos of Rick's car parked at CPS in reverse in the parking into the parking spot. So if they don't really see any differences between that car, I think they might think that Rick is lying about his noon to 1:30 timeline. We're at an hour and 17 minutes. I said it like a half hour ago, I'm not going to be a freak anymore trying to stop before 2 hours. We'll see what happens. I always end up being a freak. AD, I have no doubt the jury is going to convict him. This case has had so many twists and turns and unexpected things. I would say I have no doubt that the jury is not going to have 12 people say, after seeing all this evidence, I don't think 12 people are going to say he's not guilty, but to have 12 people say he is guilty, I'm not totally convinced. I need to go back and look at the final charges. I know they dropped some of them. Was there one charge that was just for kidnapping, then one for kidnapping that led to murder, and then murder? And at some point, McClellan dropped just the kidnapping. So at this point, I think it's just kidnapping that led to murder and murder. Maybe the jury will do the kidnapping that led to murder and maybe not the murder. We'll see in a few days, I guess. Hola. I'm so stupid. Soy stupida or estupida? Hola televisio originale. I'm surprised there were no character witnesses, not even from his military service or more recent, the CVS or Walmart coworkers or supervisors. I don't know if you would consider them character witnesses, but I said his half sister and his daughter were there yesterday or the day before, saying that he did not molest them. I don't know that that's a good character witness, but they said they loved him. It seemed to me like the defense wanted them there to have the jury think that he's not a horrible person. Maybe nobody else wanted to come forward. I want to know what happened to his wife testifying, because it seemed like she was going to testify for a while and she never did. What the hell? Um, my screen just went huge. Please stand by. Okay. And we're back. Fire and Fury. They should have played his voice in prison phone call and Bridge Guy video back to back. Unless they did, I don't know. They did not. But as you were saying that, I'm really, I don't want to say upset. I wish the prosecution had synced up these 7 phone calls to his wife and mom and shown the jury how was he acting in his cell before he picked up the tablet and made those phone calls. How did he act during the phone call? And how did he act after his wife and mom rejected his confession? I think that's huge for the jury to see. Is he pacing back and forth before making the phone call? We know he broke his tablet. That video never came up into testimony or as an exhibit. What if it was after one of these phone calls, his wife says, no, you didn't do it, stop saying that, and he throws it against the wall in frustration? That's a mistake by the prosecution. Looking for some topics we have not discussed. I'm not highlighting that comment, but I never knew that. You'll have to investigate where I'm at in the comments to try and figure it out. Gull's gavel, let's move along. Gull's gavel. Typically, the judge asks the jury to keep deliberating if they say we're not unanimous. After a certain amount of times, the judge will read a jury charge, asking them once more to reach a verdict. If they can't, it's considered a mistrial. All right, thank you. Gull's gavel. Thank you. You know I love your screen name. To be honest, I think I suggested the screen name Gull's Gavel to whoever that anonymous person is behind it. Unibot, based on your observations of the jury, any speculation on how they're feeling? If I'm a juror, I honestly feel the defense did not do a good job. They just wanted a high-profile case, phoned it in. I was only there for, I think, 2 day or a day and a half of the defense presentation. So I'm not sure that I can give a total idea of what the jury was thinking, which I don't know. Most of the time I was looking down at my piece of paper, trying to take notes to repeat back to all of you. So I did not look at the jury much until last Saturday when they were playing these videos of Rick in jail in prison for 2 hours, and the TV was only pointed at the jury. However, some people got mad at me because I said I did not notice any major reactions. I was looking at the jury, waiting for a major reaction to write on my piece of paper. I never saw a major reaction. And then some people said, oh, I watched Andrea Burkhart and Lawyer Lee, and they said the jury was making major reactions. And people were like, Tom, you're wrong. And Lawyer Lee and Andrea are right and paying more attention. But I'm just being honest. I was looking straight ahead at them. Moving along. Ah, poor Tom. Ah. Oh, Lordy. Are you going to miss my stupid laugh when I'm no longer doing Delphi live chats? Miss Dog Lovers, you're still awake? I think both sides could have done better, but I do think the prosecution were stronger. I worry massively about reasonable doubt. I think Rick is guilty, but I'm not on the jury. I did have reasonable doubt up until Betsy Blair saying she was there noon around 12:02. Her car was seen on the video until 1:15 when she went to the library to use the restroom. So I was like, oh, so these four girls were on the bridge, or sorry, on the trail and the bridge from now we found out today it was 12:25 till or at least 1:30. They didn't see Rick, not on the trail, not on the six benches, not on the bridge. Betsy Blair's walking around, and actually, to be honest, I don't think she even saw the four girls. The four girls said they went to the high bridge, took some photos. As soon as you get off the start of the bridge, you can, instead of walking back to the Mears intersection, right around there's like a very small, like dirt path down to the creek. So it's just like a shortcut if you don't want to go back to Mears and then down the 505. So I guess with the girls going down that way, that's how she missed, or Betsy Blair missed seeing them. But to have these five females walking on different parts of the trail, I don't know how they all miss seeing Richard Allen on the trail, the benches, the bridge. Thank you. Caricature contest. The jury knows, number one, innocent until proven guilty, and number two, the police think Rick is the killer. Obviously, why we're all here. So that's a good start, I guess, getting him to be found guilty. AD, juries just want to do their job and go home, especially if they've been sequestered for 3 weeks or more. They're not going to run down all these rabbit holes like Tom Webster did for the past 4 years. Trust me on that. They want to get the hell out of there. Well, I understand that, but at the same time, Richard Allen's life and his family's future depends on them spending the time to make the correct decision and not being like, I'm sick of this. Let's just come to a decision. And also Abby and Libby and their families. So from what I saw, the jury was paying attention, taking notes. Nobody was sleeping or looking that much into the audience. There's like two guys who were looking into the audience, but it was brief. So Susan said, slow down the chat. Is that 20 seconds? I don't know. We're at an hour and 27 minutes. How far behind am I? I'm exactly 40 minutes behind. Let me skip over people. Hi, Bernie. All the jail stuff aside, it still points to him. Yes. The important thing is, like, where was he at 2:13 on the day of the murders? He said twice in the first few days after the murders. Within 5 days after the murders, he said twice to police, I was there at 2:13. 5 years later, he says, oh, no, I was there noon to 1:30. That's the emoji face that we need to get done. Illegally blonde. Who else on the trail described themselves in bridge guy's clothes? Rick said he was wearing jeans and a blue or black jacket, a head covering skull cap, and a hoodie, which is bridge guy. And he backed up to CPS, which is a spot that people don't normally park at CPS. Within a few minutes of him leaving at 1:30, bridge guy also backed that thing up, wearing the same stuff. Sorry, that's just a coincidence I can't get past. Ron T says Rick's wife is in denial. He needs her to thrive, and she needs him for survival money. She had her own job at a vet office. I'm not sure what she's doing at this point. Obviously, her life has been forever ruined by this case, as have many others. Jacqueline says, what is interesting is when law enforcement let Rick's wife into the interrogation room on October 26, 2022, and left them alone. She said to Rick something like, you never told me you were on the bridge. I have to go back to my notes because I don't like to spread any kind of false information. Rick's wife, when she cries, she talks low. Her words kind of ramble into each other. So it's difficult to hear what she's saying. I need to go back and confirm if I did truly write that. There were other people in the audience during the trial who thought his wife essentially said, "You told me you were on the trail, but you never told me you were on the bridge." So October 26th, they show up to, I guess, the police station to get their car. And actually, they never showed Rick's wife's interrogation, which was interesting. Maybe during that, they told her Rick was on the bridge. He said he was on platform one. And maybe she thought, well, he never told me that. He just said he was on the trail. I would like to see that interview to see if she said that to police herself, not just to Rick when they were talking alone. And then they stood up and kissed. He kissed her twice and he's calling her baby. There's another emoji for you. Maybe another half hour. I'm going to go past 2 hours instead of acting like a freak that I have to stop before 1:59. So it's not a 2 hour live chat. So today we're doing a 2 hour live chat. Programming note, tomorrow I will be doing the 8:30 p.m. Eastern live chat. Friday, I'm not planning to do a live chat unless there's a verdict. Saturday, I was not going to do a live chat either. I was going to wait until Sunday to do a member live chat at 2 p.m. Eastern and then a public live chat at 4 o'clock Eastern. Things may change depending on what's going on with the jury and stuff like that. Satisfier. I feel the prosecution needs to also point out that he did not go into psychosis until after his confessions. I truly feel his lawyers told him to play it up big time now and act insane. I would hope that they would not, his attorneys would not just say, "Oh, you confessed, start acting crazy." There's been this thing about he got his, according to the Westville warden, Rick only started acting odd when he got his legal discovery, like the evidence. In the defense's emergency safekeeping order, they said they dropped off Rick's legal papers on March 24th, 2023. As of April 4th, he has still not been given it. I believe at some point, McClelland may have said the Westville prison had been contacting the defense saying, do you want Rick to have access to his legal papers in his cell, or do you want him to be able to go to another room or cell to read it? And the defense did not answer the phone calls from the defense for a while. Sorry, the defense did not answer the phone calls from the prison for a while. So, if Rick's first confessed on April 3rd, did he truly view his legal papers at that time? We'll never know. Looking at some interesting comments that I'm not going to highlight. I'm still far behind. Let me skip a lot. Ivy, just curious what makes you an expert on criminal psychology and personality disorder, specifically in Richard Allen? Nothing. I'm just saying what my opinion is. I've always said, like, just because I'm on screen on these live chats, I'm not acting like I'm any more knowledgeable than any of you or these experts. I'm just sharing my opinion. You people make me host these live chats. I'm just sharing my opinion and highlighting your opinions in the chat. Hi, Marissa. Prosecution will retry a hung jury. I agree. I don't think they're letting this go for the victims or their families. Yeah, I would say be ready for any kind of verdict. Hi, mommy, Wolverine. My mom called me 5 minutes before this started, and I said, "I'm busy." And she says she doesn't curse, but she said, "Screw you." Moving along. Daphne is not affiliated with the defense or prosecution. Would you like to hear from me? Sure, share your opinion. You and your dog. Help Tom buy a chalupa. Moonchild, oops. Does anyone know when the first confession to Kathy started? Some people are saying November 2022, and others are saying April 2023. The November 2022 thing is this was played in court. Rick said, I think it was played in court. He said something like, if this becomes too much for you, let me know, and I'll tell the investigators whatever they want to know. Something like that. So I think people are considering that, like Rick saying, I'm guilty, but I'm going to pretend like I'm not. But if it gets too much for you, I will be honest and say I'm guilty. You can analyze his quote as much as you want. Cinder says the local Indiana station WTHR is really good at analyzing all of each day's testimony, especially that Katie lady. I don't know if she wants to be called that Katie lady. I don't know who's Katie. I don't think I met her in the line. Ivy is up in the air about whether or not the prosecution proved their timeline just based on what's been presented in the trial. Yeah, we'll see what they do in the closing arguments if they have some kind of final summary that's maybe more concise. Margaret Ann Ray, sorry. Margaret Ann Ray, not Rose. Chris from Mob Crew always promotes your podcast. I don't have a podcast. It's just this ridiculous YouTube channel, but thank you. His timeline of the crime is spot on. Chris's show and your own are well presented. Thank you. Thank you to you for saying that and to Chris from Mob Crew. I don't really watch a lot of other YouTube live chats about the case because not acting like I know everything, but I spent so much time looking into it. I just don't have time to watch other people or learn a lot. But apparently I should be watching them because they're better than me. Ivy says the state should have opened up the phone to prove there was water damage. They left so many loose ends. Yeah, I agree. A lot of loose ends. What the hell is this all about? Paper paperclip antenna. I remember that cat picture you took. It was really great. I don't remember it. What cat picture did I ever take? Yeah, a lot of people want the jury to see Gray Hughes' timeline video. I guess it shows like a car or something going by and Abby and Libby, and just doesn't make sense that Rick is not the killer. Hi, Sunrise. There wasn't video of Rick actually eating it, though. At least that's what I took from that. Am I mistaken? Well, his video was, or sorry, his cell in prison was under 24-hour surveillance. So I think there would have to be video of it. Thank you, Gabby. Hi, Melissa. Thank you. I'm still really far behind, so I'm going to skip 100 comments. Ivy, did you find out if they showed the car on surveillance? Yes, just the screenshots. The jury has 9 screenshots of the car at 127 that Steve Mullen on the stand said he believes it matches Richard Allen's car. Hi, Pizza T. When you have withdrawals, you can have major guilt too. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are really taking into account what if he is guilty? How is that affecting his mental state and knowing that his future could be these horrible prison conditions? Katie, will you ever cover another trial? If somebody gets arrested for the Missy Beavers case, which is the only other case that I've really done a huge deep dive on, I thought about maybe doing Brian Koberger or Rex Heuermann. Not sure. Pizza T, I do Taco Bell and Hetty's. I have never heard of Hetty's, so I'm not sure what the hell that's all about, but thank you, Pizza T, for all your nice comments. Janelle, did he have a similar jacket? So this was shown in court. They showed quite a few photos of the items taken from Rick's house. There were a lot of knives. They did show a blue jacket, like a winter jacket. I've been wondering for so long, was this material similar to Bridge Guy's jacket, which to me, the Bridge Guy jacket, you can see something in the front pocket, like an outline, which to me is more like a lighter windbreaker material. But it's been said that Rick owned a Carhartt jacket at home, which everyone that I've seen is like a heavier material that would maybe not have a pocket that is whatever thin enough to see an item outline in it. So they show this blue jacket from Rick's house on the screen. And the first thing I know is like, or notice is like, hello. Carhartt jackets have a noticeable like square logo that's white and orange. It's usually like over here somewhere. On Rick's jacket at his house, it's like here down to here. It was more like a rectangle. I don't know if like the jacket was like the two sides was like maybe like covering the Carhartt logo. This is like not a good look for me right now. Oh, but I was like writing down on my notes like the logo did not match. And by the time I looked up again to see about like the material to see if it was more like a windbreaker, they changed it on the screen. So I honestly cannot say if I felt like it matched Bridge Guy's jacket or not. It was a dark blue color. The color did match. It had a hoodie on it that was fairly large. That's all I remember. Hi, outside of the grid. Hi, thoughts arrive. Excluding the confessions, what do you think the strongest piece of evidence is? For me, it's the clothing. For me, it's not the clothing because it was not proven to me that that blue jacket matched the Bridge Guy jacket or that any kind of like head covering taken from Rick's house matched the Bridge Guy jacket or the Bridge Guy video. I'd say the one thing that I can't get past is just this noon to 1:30 timeline does not add up to me at all. And if this 127 car has no noticeable differences to Rick's car, it totally adds up with his February 18th, 2017 timeline to Dan Doolin. I got there at 1:30. He parks there at CPS. Soon after, he passes 3 girls at the start of the trail. And then he goes to platform 1. Bridge Guy passed 4 girls in the same spot, and then he went to platform 1. Rick said at some point, the girls he passed, it seemed like some of them were younger and were being babysat like they were sisters. The 4 girls who were leaving and saw Bridge Guy enter, I think 3 of those girls were sisters or half sisters. I mean, that's pretty interesting that Rick thought they looked like sisters and they actually were. So the timeline to me, it just does not add up. And the jury does have those photos of the 127 car. People do make a good point that if you can't see the license plate or the driver, how can you say for sure that it was Richard Allen? And that's a very valid point. But the photos apparently show the 127 car, like on the hubcaps, they said something like you can see the sunlight through the hubcaps, like the sunlight maybe on the road. Also, the photos of Rick's car at CVS in October 2022, you could see through the hubcaps. We'll see what the jury thinks about it. Bernie thinks he drank hard liquor and beer. Otherwise, he has a mental disorder aside from alcohol. Well, according to Rick, in his detailed confession to Dr. Walla, he went to his mom's house. They were going to lunch and he didn't want to go. So he drove home. Apparently, he said he got a 6-pack. He bundled up, and Bridge Guy looks bundled up. He drank 3 beers, which is an odd detail if you're just making a vague confession while being crazy. Then he killed 2 girls and he drank the 3 beers after. That just seems like an odd detail to say. I got a 6-pack, drank 3 beers, went to the trail. I followed these girls on the trail. I did something with my gun and the bullet or the round popped out. I was going to rape them. I thought they were older than they appeared. I saw a van, so I had them go across the creek. I killed them. I waited to make sure that they were dead. I put some branches on them, and then I walked back to my car next to a building. I don't know. Yes, Devin from Pizza Hut liked my fashion sense. Sunrise. I'm actually shocked. Rick has not said, I don't want to go on. I did this and I don't want to hurt the families. I was wondering if he was going to have some kind of outburst during the trial based upon what we've heard previously. But as I've said, he has seen for a year and 1 month, he was at Westville. I'm not denying it's a horrible situation being in a cell by yourself, only getting out 1 hour a day for rec time 5 days a week. It's horrible. So is he guilty and only going through with this trial, hoping his future is not that every day? I don't know. I do say I don't know too much, sorry. We're almost done with the Delphi live chats. We're at 1 hour and 48 minutes. I'll go another like 20 minutes. Good morning, Humanimal. They didn't find any evidence in his car or the clothing. They didn't hold up his Carhartt jacket in court, or did they? Yeah, that's a good point. They should have if it matched. That's a very good point. He probably replaced it anyway. Can wash off mud, but not blood. I wish that the police had asked his wife, like showed her the photo and video of Bridge Guy and said in October 2022, did Rick own these boots, these jeans, this jacket? What's that brown thing around Bridge Guy's waist? On his head, did he own some skull cap or something that matched that? What did she say? Hi, Wampo. I do not think the Bridge Guy video matches Rick's face. However, I've said this so many times. In the 2-second video, I think there's like one face at the beginning. The face 2 seconds later looks totally different than the first face. So I think there could be the true identity is like a third face. I cannot see like the eye shape, eyebrow, nose, mouth, or jawline. So how are we supposed to like identify this guy if it's so blurry? Ivy says Richard Allen is a fashion icon. He scoffs at you wearing clothes for a second time. I said in my Kegan Klein video that Tony Klein was a fashion icon with his NASCAR t-shirts. I'm sure Tony Klein is thrilled that people are not bothering him anymore. And Kegan said he moved on. I don't think I ever revealed this, but Kegan said he has a new lady friend in his life and he wants to move on from talking about Delphi. No, I talked to him last, like April of last year when I was trying to interview him more. Hi, Charles. Thank you. I tried my best. It was exhausting, so I'm glad to be back. I really appreciate the people who are there still. Even if you don't like some of the people, people don't deserve sympathy, but it's really difficult trying to get a line or a spot in that line, attending the trial all day, and then doing live chat. So appreciate the people who are actually trying to give you guys like as much detail as possible, even more so than the mainstream media. Lady Monet, per Google, alcohol withdrawal lasts about a week. Cigarette withdrawal causes anxiety and weight gain. Thank you so much for investigating so I didn't have to ask Siri. Siri's in the other room. Hi to your cat. Lynn, did you see the bullet on a photo? I forget. I should remember this. I don't think it was put on the big screen TV and zoomed in, or else I would have remembered. Oh, actually, no. We did see crime scene photos. I did not look at the bodies, so when they were describing what was on the screen, I would look up. It was not describing bodies. So I did see some. Actually, I did see Libby's right foot in one. It was like below her knee, down to her foot. So they showed where the unspent round was found, but they really didn't zoom in that close. So I did see generally it was under some leaves and it was they said it was like pushed into the ground. So I do think it could have fallen out of his jacket and he stepped on it unknowingly. And that's why it was kind of into the ground. So yes, I did kind of see the bullet, but I think the like analysis from Melissa Oberg, the Indiana State Police lab person, I don't think they showed those screenshots close up on the TV. Hi, Candace. Cindy J says character witnesses would testify before sentencing. So if Rick is found guilty, it's going to take maybe a few weeks before Judge Gull will sentence him. And I guess before she delivers her sentence, Rick's wife and daughter and other people can say he's a good person. As Rick said, what kind of good person kills two people? We'll see what the jury says. Unibot, I would not be surprised if he speaks to the families after he's convicted and apologizes. I believe his claims of finding religion and wanting to make amends. He did not even want this trial, I don't think. It just seems weird because he did say at some point, I'm ready. I think he said to Dr. Walla, I'm ready to sign my confession or something along those lines. What prevented him from doing that? Did he talk to his attorneys ever and tell them that he's guilty? I really want to know that. Also, as a defense attorney, you're hearing that your client is saying repeatedly, I'm guilty. I did it. I killed Abby and Libby. Do you say to your client, hey, we hear you're talking and saying you're guilty. Do you want to like change your plea? I think I've heard defense attorneys say they don't want to know that their client is guilty so that they can defend them, I guess, as best as possible. It's kind of weird that like the court system, there's so many rules about it and it just gets so far away from the actual facts and justice sometimes. Marissa heard that Richard Allen knew Ron Logan and went to his property for horses. Did you ever hear that info a long time ago? Not that I recall. Although people said if Rick was working the pharmacy at CVS and Ron Logan was 77, was he fulfilling or filling his prescriptions? Rick said he never went on Ron Logan's property. I think he said he didn't know who Ron Logan was. Mommy Wolverine, do you know if the trial was recorded audio and may be released someday? The only thing, so there are, I think, 7 cameras in the Carroll County Courthouse. All of them had black garbage bags over them. So it was not video recorded. It was referenced that the court reporter, Jody, hi, Jody, I'm sure she's watching. No, okay. When it was so annoying. Like they spent $72,000 on this TV or podium. We could not hear what these witnesses were saying. I don't care about myself, but like Rick's wife and mom and family and the families of the victims deserve to hear what these witnesses are saying, and we could not hear. Anyway, it was referenced that the microphone, they were saying it's only for the court reporter, and they would say it does not broadcast for the audience, but sometimes when people would talk closer to it, it did. We heard it on a speaker. So the court reporter seems to be recording what the witnesses are saying. And I think there might be microphones at the defense table and also the prosecution table. Not sure if that's just for the court reporter or if that could ever be released officially. That would be good. We're at 1 hour and 57 minutes. I'll go for maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours. MJ, I totally agree. I will never understand how they misfiled his first interview. How so many things would be different if they properly followed up. They could get his phone, his car data, so many things. Not good. Wendy says the defense could have gone for insanity or temporary insanity. It seems like he was temporarily insane. I obviously don't know the exact definition of that, but he was cray cray. Excuse me, I burped. They didn't do that. Strike that from the record, please. They didn't do that. I hate doing these live chats. They didn't do that. In my opinion, Rick is guilty. Yeah, it just seems weird. A lot of stuff like Rick, if Rick was truly innocent, whatever, I'm not gonna even go there. Don't want to trigger people. Ivy says, there's so many decisions the prosecution made that I don't get. They should have practiced presenting it to someone who knew nothing to get all the kinks out. They did spend, I think, $4,000 for a consultant. I think maybe 2 months ago, somebody, including myself, got a spreadsheet of the entire cost of the trial. And I'm almost certain the prosecution spent $4,000. I forget what it was about. I would have offered to give feedback. Candace wants to know how much will we as the public be able to request, if any, transcripts, police reports, evidence after the trial? In the line, I was talking to somebody and they said they've requested stuff after a trial has happened, but there's a fee. So I don't know how this is going to happen with so many people online trying to get these records. Are people going to have to spend like thousands of dollars each trying to get a copy? Time will tell. Oh, thank you. Blinker fluid. To plead insanity, they have to prove that he was insane at the time of the crime, not while he's waiting to be tried. So I think it's incompetent for trial. Insanity is about at the time of the crime. Thank you. High thoughts arrive. How do you think the jury would have reacted to the Odin theory? Eye roll. Not to your question, but to that theory. I read every single damn word of that 136-page Frank's memo. I did a 7-hour and 5-minute video breaking it down. Every day for 7 weeks, I worked on that. Do I seem bitter? Because that's what I'm going for. The defense, some people say I'm biased. First of all, like, I'm not a professional journalist. I'm just like all you people. The defense did not prove to me anything that any of these guys were at the crime scene and take my attention away from Richard Allen and the questions about him that do not add up. So I think the jury would not have bought it because the defense never presented anything that changed my opinion. Again, not that my opinion matters. Hi, Brian. Do you think the domestic disturbance at Richard Allen's was him putting a gun in his mouth? It was said that it was, I think, alcohol related. His wife called police. I think this is July 2015, and it said that he had to be taken to a hospital. As I said before, I think Rick at some point in the testimony, it was stated that he said it was a cry for help when he put a gun in his mouth. I mean, that's not good to be doing that in front of your family, obviously. Hi, Brandon. Aren't closing statements like opening statements a little looser? Like the attorneys can speak theoretically and whatnot. So they should be able to pose their theory graphically. I will see if somebody in the chat answered that. Salty Beach, what are you doing with your life after you stop focusing on this case all the time? I said I've filmed 8 or 19 episodes of Cooking with Strangers. I've only had time to edit the first one. Even that's still not complete. I have so much stuff to do. I have so many like comedy videos I want to do. I have a 633-page book manuscript that I finished at the time in February 2021. I finally finished it after working on it so long. Then I became obsessed with this case, and I've spent literally like 2 hours on it in almost 4 years. So I want to edit that down and try and find a publisher. So hopefully some more creative and fun stuff. I'll still be doing live chats for anybody who wants to laugh at me or fall asleep, but there'll be like comedy stuff. And I might do, for Thanksgiving, I might do a live chat cooking for anybody else who's going to be alone. Not sure what I'm going to make. Yeah, I'm going to do live chats, probably for my members, just for like stand-up comedy practice. Good night, honey. My face looks really red. Anyway, what are we at? We're past 2 hours. Another 20 minutes or so. Unibot, after Delphi is resolved, cover the Moscow, Idaho, Brian Koberger case. The trial is set for 2025. So yeah, they delayed it till summer 2025. Yeah, a lot of people are going to unsubscribe after Delphi is over, which I'm fine with. Yeah, so people are like, how could Richard Allen kill 2 girls and stab them or whatever and not leave DNA. But Brian Kober stabbed 4 people, and the only way they found DNA was because he left the sheath for the knife. I need to skip over more. I'm still like 40 minutes behind. Let me skip to the loo, my darling. Gaming and sleuthing. Hi. I'm not going back to Delphi, or at least for now. Maybe if Devin is offering like a 2-for-1 pizza special at Pizza Hut, I'll go. Oh, it's okay, Ivy. But I'm not an expert. I just want to make sure like people know I'm just one of you. Somehow I ended up hosting these live chats, and I'm just facilitating, not acting like I'm better than any of you. Hi, Junior. Nice to see you. Hi, Lala. I haven't seen you in a while. I'll update my spreadsheet. If this is a hung jury and Rick has to be retried, I think Rick should be housed in general population. Let's see how that goes for him. I just don't think he should be allowed truly for his own safety. I just don't know in what situation it's good for Richard Allen to have a cellmate or be allowed to interact with other people. And people have made a decent, or not decent, it was a good observation. Like if somebody's in a county jail waiting to get a trial for what, like tax evasion, they're not going to be murdering Richard Allen and adding a murder charge. But still, I just don't feel like he's going to walk out of his cell into general population and everyone's going to be like, "Hey, Rick, it's so great to be your new friend." Like he's not going to be happy. These inmates at county jail are also going to be like, "Hey, I heard you killed those 2 kids." Like he's not going to be happy in general population. So that's that. Caricature contest will bet anything the jury will draw out their own timeline. It's going to be interesting to see how long they take to deliberate. Also, they've been doing a 9 to noon session on Saturdays and having Sundays off. Do these people want to get home as soon as possible that they're willing to work long hours deliberating on Saturday, Sunday? We'll see what happens. Dairy Queen shares are at an all-time low. That's because I left Delphi and I'm stopping funding them. Gaming and sleuthing makes a good point. All the prosecution has to do is prove that Richard Allen took them off the bridge by force. They just have to prove that that was Richard Allen who said, "Guys, go down the hill." That's considered kidnapping. We know that they were murdered. The kidnapping and being removed from the bridge is what led to their murder. So that's a good point. That what is the prosecution going to do in their closing statements to convey to the jury Richard Allen was that man who said, "Guys, go down the hill"? Are they going to play "Guys Down the Hill" and Rick saying to his wife and mom, "I was the guy essentially who killed them and did it"? How is the jury going to say, "Oh no, he wasn't telling the truth"? Hi, Catherine. Catherine said, I guess the bridge guy jacket does look like a Carhartt to her. After I saw this photo of the Carhartt or the jacket at Rick's house from October 2022, I searched Carhartt jackets again, looking for that, hello, that logo that's like right here. I did not see that thin, like rectangular logo, or sorry, yeah, rectangle and not square. So I'm not sure what that jacket was. I would have liked the prosecution to have said, yes, this blue jacket, the brand that we took from Rick's house, was a Carhartt, which doesn't even really matter. As somebody before said, if police thought that blue jacket at Rick's house was the same as Bridge Guy's, Why would they not show that in front of the jury? Maybe they felt like it was a different jacket, or who knows? Good night, Miss Dog Lover. Thank you for your generosity. AKA Minga, hello. I cannot imagine he kept that jacket. It would have been covered in blood spatter and also mud. I want to know, did they police ask his wife, did Rick have a lighter material blue jacket that he stopped wearing? Hi, Lisbeth. My husband has a few Carhartt jackets and dreams and shirts. What's a Carhartt dream? What? That patch is very distinctive and it's on everything. Yes. It was not on my face looks so red. Anyway, um it's on it. Yeah, the logo that I saw on the jacket from Rick's house was not the traditional Carhartt logo. I think it's time to wrap up. Tom's turning red. Katie says Rick was paying a lot of attention to young girls on the trail that day to notice them in so much detail. Somebody made a good comment in one of my videos that I'm trying to catch up on comments that I missed over the past few weeks. I think they were like, why wouldn't they ask Rick to have Bree Weber, no, sorry, Bree Wilbur and Rayleigh Voorhees get on the stand and say to Rick, are those the girls that you remember or not? Like he's really going to tell the truth if they were. Cindy says, it's just weird to me that he said 3 girls, not 4. I'm 100 that he's guilty, but I have so many questions still. So my thinking about this is if Rick is bridge guy and enters at 1:30, he has a hood on and he's looking down, which is how he was described as bridge guy was described. The trail was very narrow. So if there's 4 girls, I think it was mentioned that the Rayleigh was behind the front 3. And there was at least one sister who was shorter. So if she saw the shorter sister saw bridge guy coming and she's like, well, we all can't fit on the same trail. So maybe the shorter girls stood behind the taller front 2 girls. So if Rick is like looking down, trying to avoid being identified and walking fast, they said he was like walking with purpose. I think he was walking fast just to get past these girls. So I can see if he only looked up briefly, he maybe only thought he saw 3 girls and not 4. Obviously, if I'm saying that the trail's so narrow, wouldn't he have at least seen like 4 sets of legs or feet as he's walking by? I'm not sure. Or maybe he lied and said he saw 3 when he actually saw 4. Cinder said, I thought Rick also mentioned having an off-brand Carhartt, maybe no logo. Hopefully the photo of this jacket will be made public at some point and everyone can start examining it. High oil in the 710. If Rick does get free, will his family still stick by him? Good luck to Kathy. Yeah, her life is forever changed for the worse, and obviously his family also, regardless of the outcome. Karen, the missing 2017 phone also. Yeah, that's a huge deal. Why is that phone missing? Why did Rick's family have so many phones that they kept except the one from 2017? And why did the police not do any good investigation trying to find out when he got rid of that phone? That was never presented at the trial. I'm not saying what I'm thinking. His cell phone provider is Ting. No, I can't say that. I'll say something's wrong. That's all I'll say. Liberty, nah. Can't get past the timeline and witnesses end the video. Well, can 12 people say guilty or can 12 people say not guilty? Blinker fluid. Very weird to include the beer comment and very weird to go back home for a jacket on a warm day like that. Well, he said he bundled up, according to Dr. Walla. But I think in certain testimony, not they referenced that Rick at some point said it was warmer than usual. That's why he went to the trail. But if it's warmer than usual, why are you putting a skull cap on and a hoodie and a jacket when these other girls are saying it was such a nice day, even though it's only like the low 40s? Not sure if that adds up to me. Catherine says he realized how young they were when he made them disrobe. I'm not sure that we'll ever figure out or find out how all this played out. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's still kind of confusing how it all played out, but it does make sense. A lot of us wondered how was Libby totally nude but was not sexually assaulted. And he apparently said to Dr. Walla, I was going to assault them. I saw the van. Then we went across the creek because obviously he thought the guy or whoever's driving the van could maybe see them. I don't know if you guys saw, let me just show this real quick. I did a community post. I'm not going to find it. I wanted to know how much of a drop there is off of the private drive down to the creek to see if it's large enough that Brad Weber will be driving his van to home under the bridge and through the woods. For Rick and Abby and Libby to be down below that, and for Brad Weber not to see three people, but somehow they saw the van. And I looked at the old helicopter footage from the day after the murders, and it's a very large drop from the private drive down to the creek level. So I think it is possible that Rick did see a van, panicked, and had them cross the creek. Blinker fluid. People in Indiana do not wear a coat on a nearly 50-degree day in spring unless you're elderly. Well, even the girls, the four girls said he seemed to be dressed in layers, which were unusual for that temperature. Miss Dog Lover, rising from her sleep. Final question. Did Marathon gas station near Rick's house sell beer? Is there a connection? Well, they apparently lost the video. That's a whole nother issue. Yeah, how did the FBI lose video? 70 days of interviews got overwritten. A lot of technical difficulties in Carroll County. I don't know if the Marathon gas station sold beer. I did drive by it a few times. I'll go for another like 10 minutes, then we're done. Hi, Jenny Bunny. They are saying the bullet unspent round dropped when Richard Allen said down the hill, but wasn't it between the girls on the other side of the creek? At some point, police said, listening to the video, Libby's 43-second video, at the end, the police felt like they could hear the sound of like somebody pulling, or bridge guy pulling back the top of the gun, known as the slide, which is supposed to like pull up a round into the chamber and then you can shoot it. Richard Allen told Jerry Holman that he would keep a round in that chamber. So if he pulled back the top of it to intimidate them to say, guys, go down the hill, the round that Rick had in the chamber would have popped out at the end of the bridge. Did he pick it up and put it in his pocket? And some point at the crime scene, if he's like walking around, maybe dragging Libby or bending over for putting branches on people, did it fall out? It fell out close to Libby's right foot, like 6 or 8 inches away. So I'm not sure at what point it could have fallen out. It seems like somebody has stepped in it. So I'm not sure that we'll ever know how it came about. Some people wondered if he also like pulled back the gun at the crime scene to have them do something else there. And did it pop out there? I'm not sure. But according to Rick's to Dr. Walla, I'm almost certain he said I was fooling or I did something with my gun, and then he told the girls down the hill, I think. I'll have to go back to my notes at some point. Skipping comments. Simone, the police messed up so badly by losing that tip, not following up on Richard Allen. Totally agree. Have to wonder what routes they were going down in the early days. Such a huge miss. Well, it's been mentioned that there's like up to 200 police officers from 45 different agencies within the first week. They had to have been overwhelmed. And they have this like new command center. I just don't know how somebody looked at this piece of paper that said this man was there 1:30 to 3:30 and it said cleared. And if Kathy Schenk 5 years later had not looked through, I don't know if it was a drawer or a box, going through these old paper tips, they never would have looked at him again. Not good. Lunchboxy, we know the routes police were going down, Keg and Klein mostly. That led to nowhere. And I'd wondered previously if after that Wabash River search, there was a rumor that Doug Carter said go back to the beginning and start searching tips from the very beginning. We know that Rick's tip was entered into the FBI Orion system as the 74th tip. We were told out of 70,000, but Kathy Shank said she personally entered 14,000 tips. And she was just randomly going through pieces of paper on September 21st, 2022. And that's when she saw this paper tip about Richard Allen Whiteman saying he saw 3 girls. And I think that's what she said she recognized. She knew 3 girls saw Bridge Guy. And that's when she gave the tip to Tony Liggett. Gull's gavel, openings and closings still have to follow what has been ruled on. They also aren't evidence. The jury instructions to let the jurors know that what the lawyers say is not evidence. All right, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just not that this investigation, Simone, Kagan, they had his phones on February 25th, 2017, with a ton of like inappropriate child abuse videos and photos. It took 3.5 years to arrest him. Not good. High Atonement. How did he know the guards' patches were Odin related? I think it's the only path to a motive and how he knew they'd be on the bridge that day on a mission. He could have been a recruit. It said in Odin we trust, I believe. That one of the guards at Westville. The guard also had an I hate people patch. And I said, where can I buy one of those on Etsy? I can't believe like the prison allowed a worker to have something that said, I hate people. JA, it says device is not connected. Try and figure out your microphone. Bernie, wish there would have been at least 4 seats reserved for residents of Delphi. I am handicapped a bit. Chances of me getting in are zip, and I live here. Yes, it should have been televised or at least streamed. Gaming and sleuthing, it's true. Um, Somebody tried to join. I'll give them 1 minute to try and figure out their microphone. If not, we're done. Hi, Dan and Mrs. Dan. Hi, Bogey. Closing arguments are tomorrow, about 2 to 2.5 hours each, according to Auntie Gull. And then she'll kindly interrupt them if they're going too long. Hi, KCL. Lawyer Lee, who has a YouTube channel, I met her, she's nice, did a show with someone named Jumpsuit Pablo, who was in prison for 10 years. Jumpsuit Pablo said Richard Allen would be a target of other prisoners. I just don't understand how he could interact with other people, especially at 5'4" to 5'6". Final 3 comments, and BA or whoever just tried to join, try and figure out your microphone quick. Ivy says they can put him in protective custody like they did with Kegan Kline. General population and segregation aren't the only options. Yeah, I really think it's unacceptable for Judge Gull and a lot of different other people in the system. It took a year and 9 months to get him to Cass County. Once he got representation in mid-November 2022, the attorneys, Walden and Rosie, should have asked for another hearing to determine where he's going to be housed. They did not seek to change it officially until like the day after he started confessing in April. So was Rick okay for the first 5 months being in prison? Not sure. Scott says, I hope the public gets to hear his voice at some point. I felt like the October 13th, 2022 interrogation, I finally heard his voice enough, and it does have similarities to Bridge Guy. Aloha, Kevin. Kevin says, if I'm Rick, I'm having Kathy get the rental car ready on Friday. Google Maps to O'Hare, Chicago Airport. One-way tickets to Jakarta. I don't know that 12 people are going to say that Rick is innocent after what I saw at the hearings. And I don't know that they want to go to Jakarta. No offense to anybody watching from Jakarta. Final 3 comments. Hi, Zero Cool. The prosecution did not show the jacket because it is not the same jacket. Simple as that. That could very well be true, but that does not mean that Richard Allen is innocent. But I think that's a good point. Sassfire, whether the jury finds him guilty or not, there will be families devastated, correct? I hope for justice, but I do feel bad for Rick's family as well. I agree with you. So many negative consequences of what this man on the bridge did to these 2 girls. Catherine says it's weird they all saw Bridge Guy, but no one, or sorry, but not Richard Allen. because Richard Allen is bridge guy. Yeah, Richard Allen said he was there for 2 hours. Said he was there for 2 hours, then he said 90 minutes. So within 5 days of the murders, he's twice said, "I was there for 2 hours. I only saw 3 girls at the start." Yet nobody saw anybody on the trails, benches, or bridge that matched Richard Allen. That doesn't add up. All right, we have one more comment. All 0 cool. Yeah, you were right with that. Um, whatever, we won't go there. Ivy, I will end with you. Thank you for not criticizing me before. People's memories usually aren't good in general. I take almost any eyewitness description with a grain of salt. I agree. And in this case, I'm concerned that nobody saw Richard Allen on the trail between noon to 1:30, and his memory was best on February 16th, 2017, when he walked into the police station and said, "I was there 1 to 3 o'clock." 2 days later, he told Dan Doolin, February 18th, 2017, "I was there 1:30 to 3:30. Both times he admitted he was there at 2:13. Yet he did not see Betsy Blair. He said he did not see the group of 3 girls, or sorry, the group of 4 girls. Doesn't add up to me. Sorry. Not sorry. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Closing arguments tomorrow, so it should be interesting. That's Thursday. I guess the jury can maybe start deliberating tomorrow night, or maybe just starting on Friday. As I said before, I'm probably not doing a live chat Friday night or Saturday, but if there's some kind of verdict, my butt will get here as soon as possible. Bye. Thank you to the nice people who donated. Abigail, thank you so much. Miss Dog Lover, twice, and Sparky, and all my members. Thank you, moderators. Hopefully you didn't do anything that triggered my viewers. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.